So what if an AI could understand language, or music, or even video the same way a person does? That was the incredible promise of recurrent neural networks, or RNNs. The idea was simple: give them a kind of memory, a way to connect past information to what's happening right now. And it seemed perfect, but as it turns out, there was a massive catch. Okay, let's really get into this, because this is the central problem that held back AI for years. You see, a standard RNN does have a memory, technically, but that memory is shockingly bad. It's really, really short term. The moment information has to be carried over more than just a few steps, it just kind of fades away. The memory, for all intents and purposes, is fundamentally broken. And this example right here just illustrates the issue perfectly. Imagine you're an AI trying to predict that last word. The context tells you it's probably a language, right? But which one? Well, to know the answer is French, you have to remember that one crucial word, France, from all the way back at the start of the sentence. For standard RNN, as that gap between the context and the prediction gets bigger, its ability to make that connection just completely falls apart. And that, right there, is the long-term dependency problem.
So why does this happen? What's going on under the hood? Well, the answer lies in how these networks actually learn. It's a process that relies on these signals called gradients. And, as it turns out, during training, these signals can get seriously messed up over time.
The first big problem is what we call the vanishing gradient. Think of it like this. You're trying to send a message back through time, telling the network how to fix its mistakes. But with every single step backward, that message gets a little quieter, a little weaker. After enough steps, that signal is just a whisper. It's so faint the network can't even hear it anymore. And so it effectively stops learning from those early, often most important inputs.
And on the complete flip side, you've got the exploding gradient. This is when that message you're sending back through time gets louder and louder at every step. It starts off as a reasonable instruction, but it quickly amplifies into this chaotic, deafening shout. This causes the network to make these huge, totally wild updates to its internal settings, leading to complete instability. The whole model just goes haywire.
And look, this isn't some new problem we just discovered. Researchers like Yoshua Bengio were pointing out this fundamental roadblock all the way back in 1994. They realized that for these simple RNNs, this wasn't just a bug you could fix, it was a core feature of their design that made learning from long sequences next to impossible. So, if the basic architecture is the problem, what do you do? Well, the solution that came along was nothing short of revolutionary. Instead of just a simple passive memory system, what if you gave the network explicit control? What if you let it decide what to remember, what to forget, and what to pay attention to? What if you gave it gates? And this brings us to the long short-term memory network, or LSTM for short. It's a special type of RNN that was engineered from the ground up specifically to solve this memory problem. Its default behavior isn't to forget like a normal RNN. Its default is to remember, using a series of gates to carefully manage its memory over incredibly long sequences. Now, the absolute core innovation, the secret sauce behind the LSTM, is this thing called the cell state. The best way to think about it is like a separate conveyor belt that runs parallel to the main network. Information can be put onto this belt, and it will just travel all the way down the sequence, perfectly preserved, unless the network makes an explicit decision to change it. This cell state is the key to true long-term memory. And this is where the gates come into play. They're like the robotic arms that control that memory conveyor belt. Each gate is basically a little mini network that outputs a number between 0 and 1, kind of like a dimmer switch. So let's walk through it. First up, you've got the forget gate. It looks at the new data coming in and decides if any of the old information on the belt is irrelevant now. A 0 means completely forget this, and a 1 means definitely keep this. Next is the input gate. This one decides what new information is important enough to add to the belt. Then the cell itself gets updated. We drop the old stuff the forget gate told us to, and we add the new stuff the input gate approved. Old info out, new info in. And finally, there's the output gate, which carefully chooses what part of that rich, long-term memory is actually useful for the network's output at this exact moment. It's just a beautiful, intricate system for regulating the flow of information. Now, the LSTM was a massive breakthrough, no doubt. But all of that intricate machinery, all those gates, well, it comes with a cost. It's computationally expensive. And that led researchers to ask a really important question. Can we get pretty much the same benefits, but with a simpler, more efficient design? And the answer was yes. It was called the Gated Recurrent Unit, or GRU.
The GRU, which came out in 2014, is essentially a streamlined version of the LSTM. It keeps that core, genius idea of using gates to control the flow of information, but it simplifies the architecture to be way more efficient without losing too much of its power.
So how exactly is a GRU simpler? Let's break it down. On the left, you've got the LSTM, juggling 3 different gates and that separate conveyor belt cell state. Now look at the GRU on the right. It streamlines everything. It actually combines the forget and input gates into one single update gate. And it gets rid of the separate cell state, merging that memory right into the main information flow. It's just a much more compact and honestly elegant design. And that simpler design leads to some huge practical benefits. Because a GRU has fewer moving parts, fewer parameters to learn, it's just less computationally demanding. So what does that mean for you? It means it often trains significantly faster. And that's a massive deal when you're working with gigantic data sets or you just need to experiment with your model quickly.
So this brings us to the million-dollar question for anyone actually building these things. We've got 2 really powerful models that solve the same fundamental problem. So which one should you actually use?
So what does the research say? Well, interestingly, even the papers that first introduced the GRU found that there's no clear universal winner. On a whole bunch of different tasks, their performance is remarkably similar. There's just no hard and fast rule that says one is always better than the other. This table here tells the whole story. It's from a task where the models had to analyze movie reviews, and you can see the classic trade-off perfectly. The LSTM model, yeah, it squeezed out a slightly higher accuracy, about 1.3% better, but now look at the training time. The GRU was done in 95 seconds. The LSTM took a full 2 minutes. That's a 20% speed up. So you have to ask yourself, is that tiny little boost in accuracy worth the extra training cost? It really depends on what you're building. So at the end of the day, the choice really boils down to this classic engineering trade-off. An LSTM gives you this really explicit, fine-grained control over its memory, which might be better for super complex problems. A GRU, on the other hand, gives you a much more efficient, faster model that performs almost as well in most cases. A pretty good rule of thumb is to start with an LSTM to see what's possible, but then try a GRU if you need more speed or if you're working with a really, really large data set.
For years, LSTMs and GRUs were the undisputed kings of understanding sequences. They really did crack the code of long-term memory in AI. But as you know, in the world of AI, the frontier is always, always moving forward.
The gates in these models were all about letting a network decide what parts of the past it should remember. The next great leap was a mechanism called attention, which let the network decide what parts of the entire input, past, present, and future, it should focus on at any given moment. That's the idea that powers the giant transformer models like ChatGPT today. But it just opens up a new, bigger question. If gates solved memory and attention solved focus, what's the next fundamental problem that the next great architecture will solve?